Have you here. So she is a special government employee. Just 2.5 weeks after Trump was sworn in for this term as president, he put out a press release announcing proudly that she would be a, quote, special government employee and senior advisor of the newly created White House Faith Office. In that role, I guess, she would now like you to send her $1,000.
You can receive these 7 supernatural blessings for you and your house. According to Exodus 23, God will assign an angel to you. He'll be an enemy to your enemies. He'll give you prosperity. He'll take sickness away from you. He will give you long life. He'll bring increase in inheritance, and he'll give a special year of blessing. You're not doing this to get something, but you're doing it in honor to God, realizing what you can receive. Ministry takes money. And if you have the ability to stand with us, I'm going to ask you to put your faith during this very holy time, because I give just to give, and I pray there are others. But also know we want to get you some special gifts.
We want to give you some very special gifts. This is the head of the White House Faith Office. She is a special government employee of the government of the United States of America, and she does have some very special gifts for you. But you're going to have to do your part too. Luckily, you can do your part, meaning you can send her money in a lot of different ways. You can send her money online. You can send her money by phone. It's a toll-free number. You can send her money by text. You can send her money by scanning her QR code, or you can just stuff some money into the P.O. box. Lots of ways to give.
Toll free, write, text to give, or go to paulawhite.tv. With your best Passover Easter resurrection offering of $125 or more, Paula wants to send you a special olive wood communion set from the Holy Land.
That's what you get if you send $125 to the head of the White House Office of Faith Programs. Again, she is a special government employee of the United States. She is asking for your money. But I got to tell you, I watched the whole pitch. They're not really going for the $125 gift. That is not the target. They want you to know that the big stuff, the really miraculous stuff, kicks in when you give her $1,000.
For your special Passover offering of $1,000 or more as the Holy Spirit leads, you will also receive the beautiful 10-inch Waterford Crystal Cross. Don't miss your moment to release 7 supernatural blessings and provision into your life.
Don't miss. This is what comes with the $1,000. You see that's the sort of, not fine print, but the kind of dim print there above the banner on the bottom? Is the Holy Spirit moving you to give a very special offering? By very special, they mean 4 digits at least. And what they mean by this is, are you feeling the itch to send this U.S. government employee, the head of the White House Faith Office, $1,000 or more? If so, congratulations, because that is how you get all this stuff, including the special year of blessing and a long life and taking your sickness away for the low, low price of $1,000 payable by text or online or on the phone, toll free, or scan the QR code or send your check to a P.O. box in Orlando. She's got a government job. And hard sell, big money, pay me for miracles televangelism is as old as television. In this case, YouTube evangelism is almost as old as YouTube. But when it's from the White House, when it is a person hired as a special government employee of the U.S. government, someone running an office in the White House while selling miracles on the side, well, that's a whole new day for governance. When it comes to trying to achieve a long life and take sickness away, I will say it's nice to know that at least someone in the White House is working on those things, even if they are charging for them. You may be able to buy those things by sending $1,000 to the head of the White House Faith Office. But know when you're doing so that the U.S. government itself will no longer be working toward those aims in the material world. What I mean by that is today, the Trump administration announced that it is cutting all funding immediately with no warning for the vaccination efforts that we have supported in poor countries for decades. Quote, the United States is planning to terminate more than $1 billion in funding for life-saving vaccinations for millions of people each year in some of the world's poorest countries. The Vaccine Alliance says it was not given any warning about the termination of the funding. The program is estimated to have saved the lives of 19 million children since it was set up 25 years ago. The loss of U.S. support may mean 75 million children do not receive routine vaccinations in the next 5 years, with more than 1.2 million children dying as a result. This is vaccination for polio and Mpox and measles and the United States government is cutting that off without warning because America first, right? Because it is definitely in America's interest to make sure that preventable infectious diseases like measles and polio are rampant and unconstrained all over the world. Like it or not, we have taken a global leadership role in vaccinating against these plagues for decades. And so us unilaterally pulling out with no warning immediately leaves no capacity for these things that anybody else can match. And so, like I said, polio, tuberculosis, measles, Mpox, all of these things shall be expected to blossom immediately as a direct result of what Donald Trump is doing. I mean, obviously, we'll be fine here in America, right? None of these things ever cross borders, right? So who cares? Here in America, how are we doing with our own out-of-control measles outbreak? Well, we're working on that too. Headline, Trump administration abruptly cuts billions of dollars from state health services. Trump administration, quote, has abruptly canceled more than $12 billion in federal grants to states. State health departments started receiving notices on Monday night that the funds were being terminated, again, without warning, quote, effective immediately. The notices said no additional activities can be conducted and no additional costs may be incurred as it relates to these funds. State health officials predicted that thousands of health department employees and contract workers could lose their jobs nationwide. Some predicted the loss of as much as 90% of staff from some infectious disease teams. For some, the effect was immediate. In Lubbock, Texas, public health officials have received orders to stop work supported by 3 grants that helped fund the response to the widening measles outbreak there, according to the city's director of public health. Stop work immediately, Lubbock, Texas. Lubbock, Texas, President Donald Trump is cutting you off effective immediately. What was the phrase? No additional activities can be conducted. No additional costs may be incurred. So Lubbock, Texas, your work on the measles outbreak, that needs to stop right now, effective immediately because of Donald Trump. Remind me where Lubbock, Texas is in relation to this measles outbreak? Oh, yeah. See the really big circle there? Right there on the edge of the giant measles outbreak in Texas, Lubbock is right there at about 2 o'clock on that big circle of cases around Gaines County. Donald Trump just cut off their funds to try to stop the measles outbreak, which has now spread from Texas into New Mexico, into Oklahoma, and it appears possibly it has also spread into Kansas. If it's not spreading from Kansas, if it's not spreading into Kansas from Texas, it looks like Kansas might have its own. But even as President Donald Trump, in his infinite wisdom, is cutting off funds to stop efforts against measles and tuberculosis and polio abroad, and making state health departments here at home immediately fire as much as 90% of their infectious disease staff while we are dealing with exploding measles outbreaks here domestically. One thing, of course, we can still offer from our government is the hard-won expertise of the U.S. government, right? We at least, even though Trump is cutting all of this funding, with no warning, immediate cutoff, no advanced planning to account for any of this stuff. Even with all of those funds being cut off, at least the United States government can still offer its wise counsel on how to contend with, wildly contagious, deadly infectious diseases. Headline, remedies supported by Kennedy leave some measles patients more ill. After the Trump administration's health secretary promoted vitamin A as a cure, parents in West Texas began giving their children high doses of vitamin A. Quote, doctors in West Texas are seeing measles patients whose illnesses have been complicated by an alternative therapy endorsed by Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the Trump administration's health secretary. Parents in Gaines County, Texas, the center of a raging measles outbreak, have increasingly turned to supplements and unproven treatments to protect their children, many of whom are unvaccinated. One of those supplements is cod liver oil containing vitamin A, which Mr. Kennedy has promoted as a near miraculous cure for measles. Physicians at Covenant Children's Hospital in, yes, Lubbock, Texas, now say they have treated a handful of unvaccinated children who were given so much vitamin A that they have signs of liver damage. Quote, there is no credible evidence that vitamin A helps prevent infection in children in the United States, where vitamin A deficiencies are exceedingly rare. In fact, at high doses, vitamin A can cause liver damage. It can cause dry, peeling skin and hair loss, and in rare instances, seizures and coma. So far, doctors at West Texas hospitals have said they've seen patients with yellowed skin and high levels of liver enzymes in their blood work, both signs of a damaged liver. Health officials say the recent popularity of vitamin A use for measles can be traced back to a Fox News interview with Mr. Kennedy, in which he said he had heard of, quote, almost miraculous and instantaneous recovery with treatments like cod liver oil, which he said was the safest application of vitamin A. In the weeks after the Fox News interview, drugstores in West Texas struggled to keep vitamin A and cod liver oil supplements on their shelves. And now, because Donald Trump's health secretary has said that's what you do for measles, parents are inadvertently poisoning their children and giving them liver damage with this miraculous cure that the Health and Human Services Secretary went on TV and promoted as a miracle, despite, science. The government of the United States of America under Donald Trump firing the infectious disease doctors and cutting off funding to fight, for example, specifically the measles epidemic, but now there's kids in Texas with liver damage because Donald Trump's health secretary got on the Fox and said he found a miracle cure. And why wouldn't you trust him? He was handpicked by Donald Trump. That said, if you do want to take sickness away and live a long life, you can't always just send $1,000 to the head of Donald Trump's White House faith office. She will take your check or cash or whatever. So tonight we're going to be joined by Tammy Duckworth, Democratic U.S. Senator from Illinois. She is a veteran of the Iraq War who lost both legs when her helicopter was shot out of the sky in combat. Senator Duckworth is demanding the resignation of Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth as the fallout continues to mount from the revelation that Pete Hegseth endangered American pilots. Pete Hegseth and Trump's national security advisor and his director of national intelligence and his CIA director and his secretary of state and his treasury secretary and his White House chief of staff and his advisor Stephen Miller and his vice president J.D. Vance and more. Apparently it was a cast of 18 senior officials altogether who all joined a commercial messaging app group chat on which they circulated things like the name of a serving CIA officer supplied by CIA Director John Ratcliffe and, per Pete Hegseth, this handy TikTok of the exact battle plan, describing when specific American-piloted planes and drones and then sea-based Tomahawk missiles would be used down to the minute for forthcoming strikes in Yemen. Pete Hegseth helpfully pointed out to the group that at 2:15 p.m., all caps, quote, this is when the first bombs will definitely drop. Remember, their defense here, that they did nothing wrong here, is that there was nothing specific on this group text. No actual plans, definitely not down to the minute, talking about when the actual bombs will drop. In this group text, oversignal that accidentally included a journalist, but no one noticed even after he took his name out of the chat when he realized these were actual senior government officials discussing apparently classified and definitely sensitive defense information. And being part of this kind of conversation is not something anyone should do. President Trump has not fired anyone for this debacle, which is astonishing. He did confess to NBC News in a new interview that he sees this as a, quote, glitch. A glitch. He said this scandal has been, quote, the only glitch in 2 months. This is kind of emerging as his take on this scandal. He told reporters yesterday, they've made a big deal out of this because we've had 2 perfect months. Essentially saying that this scandal with all of his senior appointees, including his White House chief of staff, all discussing these forthcoming battle plans over Signal in a group text that they didn't notice included a journalist. He thinks this is all a hoax. This is now, he's used the phrase witch hunt. This has all been ginned up as if it's something bad. They're trying to make it look bad because he's otherwise had 2 perfect months. This is the only thing that even looks bad. Everything else has been. And you know, I will just say, between you and me, you have been alive for these past 2 months. And you have experienced what the first 2 months of this Trump term have been like. Do you think that Trump is right, that it's all been totally perfect? This has been the only glitch? I mean, just, you know, back of the envelope scratching here. It was a week or so after he was sworn in, January 29th, a jet carrying 64 people hit an Army helicopter above the Potomac River outside Reagan National Airport in D.C. Everybody on both aircraft killed. The day before that collision, he had offered air traffic controllers all across the country a somewhat threatening buyout, trying to basically beg them to leave government service. Less than a week later, Trump reversed course. Oh, actually, no, maybe that's a bad idea. Air traffic controllers, please don't leave. That same week was when we started to get the headlines about the kids who Trump's top campaign donor, Elon Musk, had brought in to his new agency to work with him to destroy the federal government. Turns out one DOJ staffer actually had to resign when it came out that he had a since-deleted social media account in which he had advocated for loud and proud racism and racial human breeding tactics through eugenics. They soon hired him back. Another DOJ staffer had been previously fired from a cybersecurity firm for leaking company secrets. He also worked at a startup that hired convicted hackers. He went by the online moniker Big Balls. We would later learn that Trump and Elon Musk, in their infinite wisdom, specifically gave Big Balls, who again had been fired from a previous job at a cybersecurity firm for leaking company secrets. Trump and Musk gave that specific kid access to the systems at the top U.S. cybersecurity agency. Great choice. Then Trump fired the staff of the nation's nuclear security agency, the people who oversee the nation's nuclear weapons stockpile. Then Trump scrambled to unfire all of those nuclear safety workers because, oops, but in many cases, they couldn't figure out how to reach them because in their infinite wisdom, they forgot to collect contact information from those nuclear security workers before cutting them all off from their government email accounts. This includes people with Q-level security clearances who are cleared for access to our nation's top nuclear secrets. Those are great folks to lose track of and to fire for no cause. Trump then fired people at the CDC in charge of tracking the ongoing bird flu outbreak. That turned out to be a mistake as well. They then tried to hire all those people back, but didn't get them all back. Trump then instituted not only firings, but a hiring freeze that applied to, among other things, the national parks. Why is it particularly bad to do that at the national parks? Well, among other things, the national parks every year have to hire a whole new cast of employees for seasonal employment because the national parks have greatly increased visitors during vacation season. Hiring freeze isn't going to work at the national parks, right? You have to hire lots of new people every year. So they did that, and then, oops, turns out they realized they couldn't do that. Turns out it would be wildly dangerous to radically understaff American national parks. Who knew? So they had to reverse that, too. Then a few days after that reversal, we saw them again scrambling to rehire people they had fired from the FDA this time. Headline: FDA scrambles to rehire entire teams overseeing medical devices after DOJ fired them all, saying their terminations are, quote, rescinded effective immediately. By this point, we're about a month in to the perfect 2 months. It was February 22nd, just about exactly a month in, when Elon Musk sent his first "What did you do last week?" email. He demanded that all federal employees email his DOJ teenagers a list of what they got done that week, or else it would be cause for immediate firing. That threat then promptly was deflated. Within 24 hours, the leaders of multiple agencies in the government, people in Trump's cabinet like Tulsi Gabbard say, told their workers and their agencies explicitly don't reply to Elon's email. Womp womp. At that point, Elon Musk had a running list of all the massive and spectacular savings he and his kids at Doge had found by cutting out supposed fraud and waste from the federal government. They claimed to have found billions of dollars in fraud. It was all on their website for you to see. But then February 25th, the New York Times reported that the 5 largest items on that list had just quietly disappeared because it turns out they hadn't actually saved all that money. They'd just done all the math wrong. Day after the rug was pulled out from under Doge on that, they had to erase another big cut from their list. Doge claimed they had found $2 billion of waste and fraud to cut out from VA. Turns out a lot of that money was for stuff like, medical services for veterans, cancer programs for veterans with cancer, burial services for veterans who die. Boy, that really does sound wasteful, right? So yeah, again, oops, they had to reverse course on that. Reinstate some of that stuff. Saturday after that was March 1st. We learned another obvious but alarming side effect to all of Trump and Musk's firings through the federal government. CNN reported that U.S. intelligence showed that Russia and China were rushing to take advantage of the moment and working hard to recruit.
Bella the dog from Springfield, a tale of truth and transformation. In the small, charming town of Springfield, Ohio, lived a regal standard poodle named Bella. Bella belonged to Mrs. Von Thursenberg, a well-known figure in the community, always polished, conservative in manner, but a lifelong Democrat. For years, she hosted elegant soirees, engaging in local politics, and treating her home like a kingdom. Bella had grown accustomed to a life of luxury, complete with fancy collars, custom bow ties, and an endless supply of treats from those who adored her. Recently, however, things had changed. Mrs. Von Thursenberg had been watching a lot of Fox News, and it seemed to have swayed her thinking.
Get your digital copy today at lulubooks.com and experience the adventure in EPUB or PDF format. Make sure you have a compatible reader to dive into this unforgettable journey. Don't miss out, unlock the secrets, and let the story begin.
The Park of Secrets.
In the year 2060, near the heart of Florida, just a stone's throw from Disney World, stood a theme park unlike any other, a place known as the House of Secrets. It was a magical park, much like a state fair, filled with towering rides, carnival games, and parades that drew people from all over the world. But among the grand Ferris wheel and the colorful day parade, there was one attraction that outshined them all, the Parade Princess, a mesmerizing mermaid named Kenya. Kenya was a sight to behold. At 22 years old, fresh out of college, she had the kind of beauty that drew people to her like moths to a flame. Her brown skin glowed under the park lights, her hair a stunning mix of purple and pink that cascaded over her shoulders. Little pink hearts adorned her cheeks, and a ribbon of color stretched across her nose. But it wasn't just her beauty that made her special.
Get your digital copy today at lulubooks.com and experience the adventure in EPUB or PDF format. Make sure you have a compatible reader to dive into this unforgettable journey. Don't miss out, unlock the secrets, and
Sable's Song, A Siren's Journey to Joy. Once upon a time, in a small, worn-out town in Middle America, there lived a little child named Sable. Born into poverty, Sable's body was frail, so thin that you could see her bones, but her heart was filled with an exuberance that not even hunger could dull. Sable was awkward, with dark, deep-set eyes that sparkled with innocence and wonder. Despite being born a boy, Sable always knew she was different. Inside her lived a girl, bright and effervescent, waiting to bloom.
get your digital copy today at lulubooks.com and experience the adventure in EPUB or PDF format. Make sure you have a compatible reader to dive into this unforgettable journey. Don't miss out, unlock the secrets, and let the story begin.
The Dreamer's Crystal Ball. Somewhere in Springfield, Ohio, a little Haitian migrant girl and her mother had just picked fresh berries, nuts, dates, and fruits for the elders of the town. With the money they earned, they eagerly headed to the grocery market, planning to buy vegetables for a hearty deer stew the mother was preparing for that night. But when they arrived, a chaotic scene greeted them.
Get your digital copy today at lulubooks.com and experience the adventure in EPUB or PDF format. Make sure you have a compatible reader to dive into this unforgettable journey. Don't miss out, unlock the secrets, and let the story begin.
Dive into the story This is more than a book, it's an experience. Download now. Read on your favorite EPUB reader or PDF reader. Click the link in bio to access the full story. Start your journey today.
I told you. What did I tell you? Didn't I tell you? 'Cause I told you. And when did I tell you? A long time ago. And what did I say will happen when I told you? Exactly what just happened.